right, so it's 2 o'clock, and I would like to officially welcome everyone to our first virtual office hours for the new year. I'm Kimberly Howard, and I'm joined, of course, by my wonderful colleagues. We have Rodney Evans, Faye Colley, Julie Hartwell. We have our team lead, Dr. Vicki Troffler, and of course, our director, Lilith Monsager. And we just want to thank each of you for being here with us. Such a busy time of the year, but so very important that we all take time to come together. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and enter your name and district in the chat, and we would love for you to respond to our opening question. In addition, please just make sure that you keep your microphones on mute so that we avoid any kind of background noise. Please use the chat as necessary to pose any questions or reactions. We have Dr. Hartwell on chat today, so she'll be responding to you as you put those questions or concerns in the chat. Okay. All right, so you see here displayed our agenda for today. We're going to have some induction and mentoring reminders for you. We'll talk about ADEPT implementation and where you should be at this time of the year. We'll look at some sclead.org reminders. A lot of questions have come up about evaluator recertification, so we're going to touch on that as well as share some special areas reminders. We'll give you some tips for virtual instruction, and then we'll save some time at the end for some questions or discussion with you all. All right, so we're going to start off with some mentoring and induction reminders. First being surrounding induction count. You all should be aware at this time that induction count will be verified by February 1st of 2021. You've probably already received some communication from your ADEPT contact regarding your induction count, just to make sure that you've got everything in. You will be receiving a follow-up email from me within the next few days, just to verify the count that is currently in sclead so that you can look at that count, make sure that it's correct, and if not, take the steps necessary to get it corrected prior to February 1st. Your district will receive funding based on that number that we have in sclead on February 1st. So we just want to make sure that you are verifying that that number is correct prior to that time. And there are 2 ways to make sure that those evaluation settings are taken care of in sclead. Remember, sclead is our go-to. We're not looking at paper documents to identify how many induction teachers you have. We are looking directly at what's loaded in the sclead. And the 2 ways to make sure they're there are, of course, using that bulk evaluations feature in sclead. If you are using sclead to keep track of evaluations, go in and use that bulk evaluation tool to make sure all those teachers' contract settings are in. And if you're not using sclead, then there's that import spreadsheet that's available using that evaluation importer. Many of you have used that process last year. It's the same process. Just make sure that we get all those settings in for those induction contract teachers. Once you do that, you can use that staff evaluations report just to pull, and you can filter it to only include those induction 1 teachers, just to make sure that all those teachers are accounted for in the system, to make sure that your number matches the numbers that we have on file. If you need any support with getting this process taken care of, please reach out to your ADEPT contact if you need help getting that spreadsheet in, or just making sure that you have everything in place for that. All right, something else that has been coming up in the mentoring world has been the renewal credits. Now, if you have mentors in sclead, then you have seen this learning cycle feature next to that mentor's name. This is an optional feature in sclead. It was designed just for you. You can certainly use it, or you can certainly opt not to use it if you have another system offline that you choose to use. Remember, the feature is optional, but it is there for your use. What we see here, this learning cycle, all principals and educators can see this on their screens. Principals and educators have view-only rights to this learning cycle, so they'll see just what we see here. However, if you are an ADEPT administrator or a superintendent, you have access to editing these learning events. You can actually add learning events to these mentoring cycles, and that means you would see the screen you see here, where you could actually add an event and account for the credit hours that were received for that event. As an ADEPT administrator, you cannot add your own learning events. In that case, you would have to reach out to your ADEPT contact in our office, and we can add those events for you. Just send that documentation to us. but you as an administrator are the only ones who would be able to add to that learning cycle. And then lastly, we see here this person mentoring cycles report. Once we add events to those learning cycles, we do have this report to kind of keep track of the hours that have been earned by those mentors. And you'll see here we have this MET column at the end, and it just lets you know whether the 18 hours for that 5-year cycle have been met or not. So again, once you enter in those hours, we do have this report available that you can go and look at those accumulated hours to determine who has met those hours and who still needs that support. So if you have any questions about any of the induction and mentoring slides I just shared, please post them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to Faye, who's going to talk to us about ADEPT implementation.
Thanks so much, Dr. Howard, for the induction count reminders and steps how to use the optional mentor learning cycle feature in SELEAD.org. So now let's go over a few ADEPT implementation reminders. First, let's have a look at the general things that should be happening since October. So each district has their approved ADEPT plan timeline. For many, the district's preliminary evaluation cycle may have likely concluded, but we would like to remind everyone to confirm that preliminary evaluation cycle pre-conferences, observations, and post-conferences occur or have occurred. This is our first bullet reminder. Note that the minimum number of required observations is defined by contract levels. So there are two questions coming up that we want to clarify for the group. First, we know that many things, including schedules and evaluations, are different due to the coronavirus pandemic. Some districts may be in situations wherein their educators could not complete the preliminary observation cycle and are wondering what options you have rather than declaring this year's evaluation as incomplete. The specific COVID-19 educator evaluation flexibility for this year does require summative evaluation teams to complete all required preliminary cycle observations. For induction, there is flexibility to replace the observation with a walkthrough during the preliminary cycle. Our office is willing to work with districts that request extensions to the preliminary cycle dates in their ADEPT plan, so that districts can finish observations for educators who have been impacted by extraordinary circumstances or medical leave. This request would need to be made by a district official to the district ADEPT contact on an individual educator basis. Any approved changes are documented with your ADEPT plan. Second, please look closely at your highly consequential evaluations. These evaluations involve annual contract teachers who are undergoing their second summative evaluation, and those annual contract teachers returning to the field following expanded ADEPT-related state sanctions. Remember that even with 2020-21, I'm going to pause if somebody could please put their mic on silent. Thank you. Thank you for that. So just going back to my last sentence, that we want you to remember that even with the 2020-21 COVID-19 educator evaluation flexibility in place, there are no changes to the evaluation team members. So be sure there are at least 3 persons on the evaluation team, that being either the principal or the designee, the content expert, and then another team member. The 2020-21 COVID-19 educator evaluation flexibility requires that at a minimum, all observations in the preliminary cycle and at least 1 observation in the final cycle be completed. Flexibilities are always optional, and we encourage districts to conduct all observations when possible. Ideally, educators should have been informed during their orientation prior to beginning the evaluation process whether the flexibilities will apply to them or not. And for the last bullet, we just want you to be thinking about your district's capacity to evaluate in the future. Later on, Dr. Traffler will touch on special areas and remind you to build capacity to be able to conduct evaluations using the 2020 Special Areas Evaluation Model. Also, she will touch on the SETS 4.0 evaluator credential expiration email reminders that were sent to you and your evaluators by NIET. So I know Ms. Janet Morris mentioned that in the chat, so be on the lookout for that section on our training today. All right, so let's have a look at a few things that should be happening between now and in the near future. Dr. Howard already discussed bullets 1 and 2 on the slide. For bullet 3, it's a reminder that for many, starting February, the final evaluation cycle begins. And we'll look at that on our next slide. Let's talk about the final evaluation cycle reminders. So this is a sequential review of how the final cycle should occur. The sequence of bulleted points could also vary by average or consensus approach. The bullets in blue are the ones that differ from the preliminary evaluation cycle. So to reiterate, for this cycle, observations are unannounced. Pre-conferences will not be held. With regards to the bullets in blue on professionalism, districts who opted to conduct the professionalism review during preliminary cycle still must conduct the professionalism review and scoring in the spring. Only the professionalism review from the final cycle will be calculated in the overall ratings. The professionalism review should be completed by a principal or administrative designee. The teacher should submit the professional self-review no later than 5 school days after their final observation of the final evaluation cycle. For those on consensus, the professionalism review and the professional self-review should be scored prior to the consensus meeting for the final evaluation cycle. The last bullet in blue is a reminder that the SLO must be completed as part of the evaluation, regardless if your district has chosen average or consensus approach. The teacher's SLO score is used as a modifier for the teacher's overall evaluation rating. We understand that there will be likely be more skip SLOs this year because of roster changes due to COVID. It is important to note that all final evaluation conferences and SLO conferences need to be conducted before the deadline for issuing educator contracts, or April 30th. At the end of the final evaluation cycle, continuing contract teachers who are being recommended for formal or summative evaluation the following school year must be notified in writing on or before the date the school district issues the written offer of employment or reemployment. This concludes the ADEPT implementation reminders. Likewise, please place your questions in the chat. We'll have a section for that at the end of our office hours. I'll now turn over the mic to Rodney Evans.
All right, thank you so much, Faye. We'll now have SELEAD.org reminders. All right, we'll look at wrapping up the preliminary cycle and the beginning of the final cycle in SELEAD.org. Excuse me. By this time, districts would have indicated evaluation cycle deadlines and your submitted ADEPT plan. You're also able to reach out to your state level ADEPT contact to make changes if needed due to COVID-19. This first reminder takes a deeper look at the observation status bubbles on the evaluations page. After you use the filters in the column on the left side of the page to display a roster of educators in your district, you will then see the status bubbles beside each educator's name. These bubbles may be empty, which in most cases signifies no data or signatures have been entered. Bubbles may be partially filled in, which in most cases indicates there is some progress toward entering signatures and/or data. Or the bubbles may be fully darkened or filled in, which indicates data and signatures are present for all parts of the process except for the observation status bubble. We are reviewing the status bubbles to ensure that you are aware of how to spot check evaluations from the preliminary cycle to ensure that they are complete. Using the status bubbles is a little more straightforward for orientation and for student growth, but the completion bubble for observations will require spot checking within the observations or within the evaluations. So the first tip is to remember is that the observation status bubble denotes that the evaluator has signed the post-conference form. This was programmed by design so that the lack of the teacher's signature would not prevent a duly executed evaluation from being completed or closed in SCLEAD.org. This does not imply that teacher signature is not required. Teacher signatures are very important in ensuring transparency in our evaluation system. So while the lack of teacher signatures won't stop the online process, they are needed in the system. So step one, remind evaluators to get teacher signatures at the end of the post-conference in both average and consensus districts. Consensus districts also need to get teacher signatures on the consensus post-conference form. SCLEAD does help with some of this through blue informational messages on the observation page, but we still need to do our due diligence. As District Adept contacts, we encourage you to spot check evaluations to ensure that teachers are signing post-conference forms and paying close attention to those on summative or highly consequential evaluations. The second tip is to remember is that a filled-in observation status bubble does not indicate that the correct number of observations are loaded, or for consensus districts, that the consensus meeting form at the end of the evaluation cycle is loaded. SCLEAD.org helps us through blue informational messages, as you see on the screen, on the observations page, but please be aware that the status bubble will darken once at least one form is signed by the evaluator, and further spot checks may also be needed. So the big takeaway from this is there is no substitute for going into observations and spot checking for completion and signatures, but thankfully you're able to do so in SCLEAD. Another way to spot check for missing components of evaluations is using the SCLEAD.org ADEPT reports, and utilizing the evaluation status ADEPT district report will help you facilitate the documentation of ADEPT evaluations. One feature of this report is that it shows the status of various components of the evaluations in your district. Columns A through F for the sample report are not shown. You see it starts with G, as those columns pertain to district code, names of educators, school name, and CIDs. It is important to note the following pulling this report. Do not be alarmed when you see N in columns. This doesn't necessarily mean that the educator is lacking components on his or her evaluation. Make sure to filter the report first by evaluation type in column G. For classroom-based teachers, it is okay to see N for summary both under preliminary and final, or column Z and AA, because summary forms are not required for those educators. If a district requires only an SLO, then for those classroom-based teachers, goals or columns N and O may also be okay to populate in. For special area educators, it is okay to see N for SLO or columns K through M, since the SLO is a requirement for classroom-based teachers and not special area educators. If a district required special area educators to team up with classroom-based educators and to enter an SLO and SLE.org, then columns K through M may need to show a Y. Once you filter the report and understand which columns should be Y, you can then determine which educator, evaluator, or administrator you may need to follow up on. With regard to results, do not be alarmed if column AB or the result column is marked met, blank, or unknown. SLE.org dynamically calculates scores based on entries. The academic year has not concluded, and it is likely that not all entries required for the evaluation have been entered. Column AC or the complete column will only become Y once the district adept administrator marks the evaluation complete box inside an educator's evaluation record in sclead.org.
So I'm not 2 minutes late for our.
I will now turn it over.
We never came out of there.
Please mute your mics at
Okay,
this
that's what I
time.
was double checking.
Oh, all right. Did that calendar make sense?
Yeah, we have, so,
Thank you. All right, thank you so much. All right, that concludes the section on SLE.org reminders, and I will now turn it over to Dr. Vicki Troffler.
Thank you, Rodney, and good afternoon. We're going to look at the SCTS 4.0 Evaluator Recertification. As some of you may already know, NIET is sending out automated notifications if your certification in the SC certification portal will soon expire. There is an example at the bottom of the screen here so you can see what that message looks like. This refers to your certification as an SCTS 4.0 evaluator. This is different from your educator certification or your teaching certificate. So just know that we are currently working with NIET to clarify the language of these automated notifications so that it's very clear that this refers to your SCTS 4.0 evaluator credential in SCLead. Just some quick reminders. All SCTS evaluators are required to renew certification or their credential every 3 years. NIET will send out 90, 30, and 14-day notifications as that renewal date approaches. The evaluators certified at the start of an academic school year may continue to evaluate that year, even if their certificate expires during that school year. And in our example, the school year 2020-21. However, without taking and passing the certification test again, the district will not be able to assign them to the teams for the next school year. And again, in our example, year 21-22. Also, please make sure that your current email address is on file in the NIET portal so that you can receive those important notifications. If you do need to update your email address, you can send it to support@niet.org. To recertify as an evaluator, you'll need to go to the website located on the screen to take the certification exam. Remember, part 1, you will be reviewing a video and rating the instruction domain only. And then part 2 is the post-conference section, and those are your multiple choice questions. So to refresh your knowledge, you can refer back to the notes from your initial 3-day training and to the handbook and workbook for information regarding that certification exam. A certificate will automatically be generated once you successfully complete it. If you have an unsuccessful attempt, you can wait that 24 hours before re-attempting the certification exam. And then SCTS, the credential will automatically update in sclead.org. Just as a note, if you pass the first part, the video, it will let you take part 2. If by chance you do not pass part 2, when you go to take it again after the 24-hour notice, you will only need to take part 2 again. Okay. I'd also like to keep you updated on our revised special area evaluations. So we have pilot districts, as you know, and they are completing surveys to provide us with feedback as we look to make revisions as needed in training or in the guidelines. So if you are in a pilot district, please complete that survey by January the 15th, which is 2 days from now. That's this Friday. And we will use that feedback in making our decisions. The cut scores for met, not met will be drafted based on the data from the reports in sclead.org from our pilot districts. So our guidelines and our cut scores may be presented, we hope, at the March State Board of Education for approval. And then finally, there are some upcoming dates for our special area Train the Trainer trainings. We have 2 more coming up for the winter and spring, January 26th and May the 7th. Remember too that our district special area managers, our SAMs, are appointed by the ADEPT coordinators, and they must attend one of these special area Train the Trainer trainings in order to train and manage our evaluators in Moodle. Remember that every district must send at least 1 trainer. There will be future special area Train the Trainer trainings to take place in the summer of 21, and our goal is to announce those dates in April. And now I will turn it over to Lila for some tips on virtual instruction.
Thanks so much, Vicki. It's so good to be together with all of you. We know how incredibly busy the start of the semester for most of you has been, and we're just deeply, deeply thankful for all you do. My wrapping it up slide is really just some resources to share with you. For virtual instruction, I am so proud that our office is going to kick off our very first large-scale opportunity for educators to get credit for micro-credentials. That's happening tomorrow, but the link that I've included here, and I will also drop it into the chat for you, is the library of micro-credential options that we're giving to those cohorts. And if you look on the tab for virtual instruction, it includes links to 25 different micro-credentials, most of which are free, some of which do have a small fee associated with the submission and the evaluation of the micro-credential, but we think they're a really good fit for anyone who has done those NIT sessions, or anyone, like so many teachers in your districts that are doing great job embedded work, learning how to be virtual instructors when that's not something they've been trained to be. So we really want to find ways to recognize that amazing work that teachers are doing this year. Next link is a link to the Personalized SC community. This is an online professional learning community for teachers, where teachers organize and share resources and do webinars for each other. Every time I drop into that conversation, I come away with a new perspective on different ways to really reach students and personalize learning for them. And so if you have teachers that are eager to learn from other teachers and see examples, I'd really recommend checking out that community, which is totally free and is run through our Office of Personalized Learning. We are also so deeply thankful that NIET, our great partner for the South Carolina Teaching Standards, is going to be able to open up more of those sessions they did this fall on virtual instruction and coaching teachers who are teaching virtually, and those rely on that virtual companion tool. The link to additional trainings is here. You've probably also received it through NIET, but just wanted to make sure that was there for you. And again, after I stop talking, I'll put that in the chat for you. And then finally, these last two links, there are very few conversations I have with any of you or with other district leaders where mental health and social emotional health doesn't come up. Many of us have talked about the need to attend to our own mental health as well as the mental health of our students and teachers. And with COVID spreading everywhere, I have no doubt that we're going to continue to see students who experience real trauma due to COVID. South Carolina is lucky that we were able to get some training on youth and adult mental health first aid. And those trainings have just come out and are open to your school leaders, open to district leaders. We'd encourage you to share that training link if you have anyone in your district that is available to attend those trainings. And then just want to shout out the social and emotional learning resources website from the department continues to grow. So please check that out as well. With that, those are just a few resources we wanted to share. I'll make sure the links are in the chat. They're also in the PowerPoint that Faye sent to you. But again, thank you for all you are doing. I think I am giving the mic back to the team so that we can field some of your questions.
Thank you, Lila. And like Lila said, we want to hear from you. We want to know what your questions are so we can go ahead and address them. So if you have questions, you can post them in the chat or you can share them on the mic. And also to those of you who are monitoring the chat, Faye and Julie, if there are any questions that you want to shout out to the group, we'd love to hear them.
We did have one here at the end, Kim from Megan. She's not getting a report from NIET or notifications. How can I make sure I'm the district administrator in the NIET portal?
Megan, thanks for letting me know. I'll certainly follow up with NIET. If you want to send me an email, I'll follow up with NIET and we'll get you coded as a district administrator. So just send it to me via email.
We had another question. Thank you, Dr. Howard, for that. We had another question about where folks can register for the special area train the trainers. Where is that, those registration links? And we are going to look for those and either drop them in the chat or send them out again.
I do not remember where those links are published.
I believe Beverly has sent an email out to the ADEPT coordinators for that, and we can definitely resend that for the last two trainings.
And I've got the link in the newsletter. Once I'm done with all these other links, I will post that one in there too, guys. So thank you.
We have one question here at the bottom about how do I get new administrators who come from other districts added to my list of evaluators in my district report? Bernard, give us a little more information about which report you're speaking of. Is that from NIET or from sclead.org?
I'm sorry, it's NIET. When I ran a report on to give them the expiration date, a couple of administrators who are admin and SC Lead are not on my NIET report to give them the expiration date on their certification.
So NIET does not have them listed yet.
Julie, I'll jump in. I think I understand.
Yes,
I think what Bernard is asking, and maybe it's the same situation for others. So if you have new administrators who came from other districts, so you're really looking for certified evaluators that came from an older district that joined you, I will be happy to share. We have an old correction template that you could use with sending corrections in bulk to NIET, wherein you would fill in the notes, the correct email addresses, also the old email addresses of the evaluator from their old district, because that's how they matched the creation of the account via that old email address that they had. So we would have to fill that form with the old email, also the CID of the new evaluators or administrators that have joined your team.
Hey, we had a follow-up question in a similar vein. Hold on just a second, I need to scroll down. Most of my evaluators were certified in 2017 and they have not received the notification to renew.
Julie, I can take that one because I was talking to someone, and one of y'all is going to be on here. You're going to remember I was talking to you, but I forget exactly who it was yesterday. So everyone that was granted grace, anyone who was trained in 2016, anyone who was trained in 2017, folks who were trained before that first year of implementation in 1819, we gave them extra time. So it was as though their certification started in 1819. So you're going to have some folks who were kind of grandfathered in, and I'm one of these. I took my certification test in November. My certificate actually doesn't expire until November 2022. So you're going to have some folks who, you know, because of the month they were trained in, are getting the email now, and some folks that got a little bit of extra grace. So any of your evaluators can check when their certificate expires if they're worried about it by going in and looking specifically. And really that irregularity should only apply to people who trained early, like most of us did.
Thank you, Lila. Thank you so much for that. I had another question, and actually the answer is in the chat, but wanted to share it with everybody. Where can you find the link to the special areas survey that Dr. Trofler had referenced? It is a link to it is on the SC Lead homepage under announcements. You'll see a little blurb about the survey and the link to take the survey. So we've placed that inside of sclead.org under the announcements, just to let everybody know if you have a pilot district, that's where you'll find the survey. And more than just adept folks can take it, your actual practitioners can also take it. We had another question about how many folks can attend the special area train the trainer sessions. Can districts, this is from Gina, can districts send more than one person to the special areas training? And that answer is yes. Thank you, Dr. Trofler. Although there can only be one special area administrator or SAM per district, you can send more people to that training. Thanks, Dr. Trofler.
Sure.
Anything else you wanted to add to that, Vicki? I think that gets at it.
No, that was a really good question, and we would actually love for you to send several of your leaders to the special areas train the trainer training, because we have a component where you actually will collaborate and plan together as district decision makers. So as long as one of those people is your SAM, you're good. You can send a good handful of folks to come, but they do need to be district level decision makers for special areas.
And I think that's all.
I think we have a hand raised.
Oh, we have a hand raised. Thanks, Kim.
Was it Trish?
It's me.
Yes.
Yes, it's me.
Okay.
You know, I always have to have a question. And just anybody who is listening, if you have any suggestions. So I've been meeting with our district contacts for speech median counselors about the new evaluations and kind of getting through how we want to start getting evaluators trained for this. And the first thing we looked at, or one of the first things, was getting the administrators trained. And here is my dilemma. The first idea was, well, if we can get, rather than having them all do all the training before next year, because they're already so overwhelmed, maybe we could get one administrator to each school to do a training. One could do for speech, one could do media, and one could do counselors. Then we thought about that, and I said, well, we've got some schools that only have one administrator, and then sometimes during the summer people get shifted around. So that might create a problem at the beginning of the school year. So we're kind of thinking we probably just need to get the administrators trained in all 3 areas, because we just don't know what you don't know, and I don't want them to get caught in a bind when school starts of needing the training and not having it. Having said that, I did the media one because I wanted to at least say that I have done one before I started talking to them about it. And it probably took, and I did it in pieces, it probably took about 4 or 5 hours, and probably faster than someone who's never seen a rubric. Like, so I guess I'm just a little bit concerned and I'm open to some ideas about if anybody else has thought about that, if you have suggestions. Because if they do each one, that's like 15 hours. And I'm just putting it out there to just kind of help process. If anybody has any thoughts, I would greatly appreciate them.
Trish, just so that I'm understanding correctly, we had sent out a training guide for y'all to use with the practitioners themselves to introduce them to the new guidelines and instrument. But for your evaluators, they will be going through that self-paced online training in Moodle. So that training is what is required for your evaluators, and they can do it during their own time, independently, without meeting face to face.
Right. I am totally, we're on the same page.
Okay.
I guess I'm just thinking about administrators at the schools who are going to need the training in preparation for the upcoming school year, because they will have to complete that evaluator training in order to serve on one of those teams. Or am I totally just in the wrong ocean?
No,
Which,
that's
as you
correct.
can see, I'm quarantining at home, so that is highly possible.
No, if they're evaluating the practitioners, then they need to go through the evaluator training. And it varies with how long that takes. It depends, because they do listen to the PowerPoint, and there's, some little checkpoints, and then there's a little activity for them to complete. And it really depends on how long it takes them to complete that assignment in Moodle, and it can vary from person to person. But I think we actually gave them credit for 4 hours of recertification, but it usually takes folks shorter time to complete it.
Okay.
And I'm sorry. I was just going to say, if you don't mind, I would love to kind of pitch this question to the group, because I've had lots of districts who've sent in credentials for lots of different educators. Some of them have gotten multiple credentials within a short period of time. So if someone kind of wants to share with us, what strategies you may be using that's kind of helping to get them trained, we'd love to hear it.
And I'm not as much concerned about the speech media and school counselors who are going to be serving as evaluators, because they're only having to complete one of those. I'm thinking about the administrators.
I will say this, in the PowerPoint, in the training, we took that into consideration with our principals and our administrators that would have to go through more than one of those trainings. And they actually have an option to skip some of the slides that would be the same information they've already heard. So that does shorten that for them a little bit. If they're only doing one training, they need to listen to all the slides. If they are going through more than one training, they have an option to skip a section.
Okay. Perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. And because they're going to ask me, so where does it just say you can skip, or I'm just telling them, for example, contract levels, that information is will be pretty similar. So I can just tell them they can kind of skip that, or is it let them
It's-
know in there? Because I've only done one.
It lets them know in there. It's on a slide where they have 2 buttons to click. One is to proceed to the next slide. The next one is to proceed to the next section and skip it.
Thank you. You have made my day.
You're welcome.
Vicki,
Yes.
I will tell you that in Horry County, I began sharing this with administrators back before we got out for Christmas. And they have been so far very appreciative of the fact that it is in Moodle, it's self-paced, and they're able to do it on their own time. When I emailed them and spoke to them about it, I let them know that they had until June to accomplish it. So it has really gone well for our district so far. I did not get a lot of negative feedback. So Trish, I hope that helps.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
It does. I just I think I just had mentioned it to a couple, and they're like, and I think part of it is just not knowing. And I'm like, just wait. We're going to push this out in chunks. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of you. But that skip option, Vicki, that's going to be perfect. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
And Trish, Daniel Odo has also put a suggestion for you in the chat. Of course, they're a suggestion to the Richland One folks to break up the specific training to take longer. They don't have to try to do it at all at one time. So thank you, Daniel Odo, for putting that in the chat. Crystal has a question. If she is attending the Train the Trainer, or she has that certificate for 6 hours, is she certified to be an evaluator for all special areas?
The answer to that is no. If they're going to be an evaluator, they must go through the evaluator training in Moodle. It gets into much more detail about their role as the evaluator.
Thank you, Vicki.
Sure.
Vicki, this is Cheryl and Clover. I just going to share too about the training of administrators. I think it would, I decided it would be overwhelming for them to try to do all 3 areas at one time. And since we've got folks kind of piloting in each of the areas, I actually just pulled the recertification report for next year for 21-22 and approaching the administrators as they need it. So I'm letting them know in advance, you have a speech media person next year. I need you to be sure you've completed the training to be prepared for that, rather than doing everyone in a bulk group at the same time.
That's awesome. It's a great idea.
That is awesome. Thank you, Cheryl. We've got a follow-up question from Crystal. What is required of the educator? Just the orientation? Crystal, give us a little more context about that. Can you jump on the mic?
Yes. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Just, I'm just trying to I had a hard time getting onto the Microsoft Teams, so I'm coming in late, and I apologize for that. But I'm the one that also asked about the Train the Trainer. So I'm trying to look ahead at, like everybody else, how we're going to get our folks trained. And so once we get these folks trained, I'm also trying to think how I'm going to assist those educators who are going to be going through this evaluation process. So I could not remember what is required of them. So we get the evaluators trained, the individuals who are going through cycle 5 next year are going to be going under this new evaluation. What training is required of them?
Districts are required to provide an orientation for all of the practitioners that are undergoing the evaluations. We have created a suggested training for you in a PowerPoint. The beginning of the PowerPoint tells you all of the different documents that you may need, some resources, and some ideas. And then we actually give you the PowerPoint with the script to use for each of those 3 groups of people. It's just suggestions. We had some folks ask for some guidelines, kind of like we did with the SCTS 4.0 for the teacher orientation. It is not a full 1-day training like it is for the classroom teachers. It's up to you whether you have everybody together and then divide them up by the speech language professionals and then the school librarians and the school counselors with 3 different groups, or you can have them all there together. That's your call, but we do have specific PowerPoints for each of those 3 groups, and we sent those to the ADEPT coordinators.
Yes, and I did go back where I had trained the trainer, and it's been a while. It was in July, and I do remember being given a folder, and I did see the PowerPoints and orientations, and they look great, and very appreciative of that. I just wanted to make sure that we're, are doing our due diligence to make sure we're giving them, everything that would be required. So thank you so much for that. And yes, I have seen that. And just on a side note, real quick, when we are evaluating them with this new evaluation, how is it only one evaluator, which could be the principal or assistant principal? Is that the only that's required, or is it still 2 like with everybody else?
It depends on their contract level.
Okay, great.
Just like the classroom teachers.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We've got a kind of similar question, Vicki, from Chad. If we have our principals take all 3 special area evaluator trainings, is 12 hours of renewal credit the maximum number?
With each being worth the 4 hours, then yeah, they would get 4 hours for each, so 12.
Yes.
And Daniel had some questions from Richland 1. Daniel, have your questions been answered yet?
I have just a follow up on the comment that Vicki made about the there's a spot somewhere in there on those trainings within Moodle that asks if you've already gone through one, there might be a module you can skip on a different later training. Did I understand that part right?
Yes, it's near the beginning of the PowerPoint because what we did was do a brief overview of all 3 areas, and anything that was generic with all 3 groups we put at the beginning so that can be skipped for the administrators that have to go through another training.
So just forgive the silliness of my question, about how much time is that going to save?
I don't know offhand. There is not a activity tied to that. So it is just the PowerPoint. So it's a matter of them listening to the script of the PowerPoint section, if that helps any at all.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. And thank you, Lola, for answering my question as well.
Thanks, Daniel. Dr. Staggers has a question. I'm looking for an idea regarding providing mentors with SCTS evaluator training to help them meet the 18-hour requirement. Can someone please share how they are meeting this? So do we have anyone from the field, or Dr. Howard, would you like to chime in on that?
I'll say several districts have pitched ideas about how they want to go about this process. Many of them looking at just breaking it up, not doing it all at once. We also have some suggestions of how districts can meet this requirement on our one-pager that we have regarding these, regarding the mentor renewal credentials. So that's on the website, but several districts have pitched ideas about how they can do that. And I don't know if any districts are on the line that kind of want to share with Dr. Staggers, what you're doing, or maybe you could send her an email, just how you're breaking that down for your mentors to be able to do that.
Any thoughts out there? Somebody want to jump on the mic?
And Dr. Staggers, if you do have some ideas of how you plan to meet that with your mentors, we ask that you just send it in to us so that we can review it and give you feedback on it.
That's a great suggestion, Dr. Howard. Thank you for that. So we have 6 minutes left, so we've got plenty of time to answer your questions.
Dr. Hartwell, I'd just like to jump in. I think one of Danny's questions was regarding that orientation, that if you've done one of the special areas, that it will tell you in the other trainings that you can skip that. I looked at my notes. I believe it's about 10 minutes. So with that specific PowerPoint on the introduction that Vicky, Dr. Traufler was saying that doesn't have any activities related. If I'm not mistaken, that's what I saw in my notes when I dug.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you very much. I think those are all of our written questions. Does anybody have a question they want to just hop on the mic and share?
Dr. Hartwell, just a question for those that may have already registered for special areas, if they have a need to change in that schedule, who should they reach regardless? And I'm referring to like the May 7th and January 26th special areas.
Hey, I missed your question. Say it again.
There may be others that have registered for special areas training either on May 7th or January 26th, but may need to make a change in their schedule of when they really need to be at. Whom should they reach in our office to make the changes for the training that they registered for?
It would probably depend on the person that's managing that training, the logistics person for that training.
I'll look it up, Faye. I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, y'all know if you are the logistics person, but I'll look on the form stack while we're sitting here.
I have it. The logistics person for January is Julie Hartwell, Dr. Hartwell, and for May, it is Faye Colley.
Thank you so much, Dr. Traufler. So I asked that question. Somebody had asked me to switch. So I wanted to make sure that others that may be in that situation who need to switch trainings. So to reach me, if you need to be added to the May 7th and Dr. Hartwell for January 26th.
Thank you for grabbing that for us, Vicki, and thanks for putting that question out there, Faye. We had one question from Dr. Elkins. She'd love for the State Department to record a training for each special area, so it would be the same training for each person. It could be posted on the SC Lead website. Dr. Elkins, can you hop on the mic and tell us which training you're speaking of? You're talking about the orientations for special areas? You can hop on the mic or put it in the chat. Thank you. Lila has given us some feedback here. And Dr. Elkins, if Lila's feedback did not address your question, please let us know and we'll get some feedback for you. So we have 2 minutes left. Anita, thanks. Yes, for future special area training. That just to let you know, that evaluator training is already standardized and it's online. And if you're talking about the orientation, Lila has put that in the box as well, that we've already provided you with 3 structured templates, really presentations that you are able to edit, but you at least got something to work from, which are the orientations from the practitioners. So somebody would still have to deliver it. It's not recorded per se, but you do have a template. You're not working blind in terms of how you're going to execute the orientation, but we certainly receive your suggestion. Thanks, Dr. Elkins. And Anita, thank you both. All right, we've got 1 minute. We're going to sit right here until 3 o'clock clicks in, or if you have any other questions. So here's
Julie,
our contact information.
not
Thanks,
Julie.
Rodney. Dr. Howard?
I was going to say, Faye, can you give Julie Woodhouse any feedback on when this presentation will be available? She wants to know when she can catch the first few minutes.
All right, so the PowerPoint presentation, you do have that copy. In terms of the recording, we will try to make it available to you as soon as possible. Usually that takes between a week to 2 weeks. We do need to go through the accessibility process with our agency, so we do appreciate your patience as we work on this. We will make sure that you get it as soon as possible.
All right, so we've reached 3 o'clock. We know many of you have to go. We'll hang out here for about 2 more minutes, but if there's nothing else for us, we again appreciate each of you being here. And thanks for helping us bring in 2021 with a good bang.